This chapter is amazing, I have to say. The intensity of this fight between Agito versus Lolong, I think, surpasses the intensity of the fight between Gaolang versus Jiraiya, at least so far in this one chapter. But overall, I am very much hopeful for the future of this fight, because even though there were some things that were explained to us, there are other things that happen in this chapter that are just, there's so much to talk about, honestly. So let's actually get into the chapter itself, and it is named quite well, actually. It is called An Exchange of Champions, and again, appropriate title, in which we start off with a flashback, and this flashback is actually the flashback of what happened in the first clash that was at the end of the last chapter. Remember, that's how the chapter ended, with Lolong and Agito rushing towards each other, and there was an exchange so fast that really no one saw what happened there. So we see what happened, and there was an entire exchange. It wasn't like a single hit that actually went in, and it starts off with Lolong Donaire. He's going in with a right strike towards Agito, but Agito, he blocks it with his own right hand. But then after that, Lolong changes the attack from his right hand attack and is trying to use his elbow. So he's transitioning in terms of the attack that he is doing, and by doing this, he's opening up Kano's defense because he's shifting his other hand away from his face. But Agito is also, at the very same time of this happening, also going to strike at Lolong's face as well, which results in both of them getting hit. So a pretty big exchange that happened in what Yamashita says was a split second. So this was very fast. Agito and Lolong are moving very fast, and we do know they do use pre-initiative, so this is definitely at play here. But the result of that is that Yamashita is the only person who really could see what was actually happening there. So it seems like we're getting this flashback from his perspective, because he does have kinetic vision here. Whereas Jerry and Kitahara are basically, they're flabbergasted. They don't know what happened. But with that, we go back to the actual fight itself, and both Lolong and Agito are stanced up, ready to go, and Yamamoto, the referee, he's there. He's like, oh damn. He can feel the intensity of aura between Agito and Lolong. Something to note about how intense this situation is, but they then charge at each other again and create another shockwave as they clash their fists, and another exchange ensues from that point on. And Lolong seems to be the one who is primarily attacking here, because we see there are multiple impact hits. So Lolong is rushing, he's just launching a lot of strikes at Lolong, and we see him even launching his elbows as well. And Agito, he's blocking, but unfortunately his left hand that he was using to block the attacks seems to be tingling. It's probably from the damage Lolong is doing to it, but ultimately it's a weak spot that Lolong is going to take advantage of, and he just charges up another elbow strike at Agito, and this one seems to be quite powerful because it sends Agito back a little bit here. But Lolong, he tries to follow that strike up with another straight punch, but unfortunately Lolong uses, we don't know what it is necessarily yet, although it does look like formless. It probably is formless or some iteration of it, but he starts to use the formless and sort of disappears the same way he did against Julius for a recent example. But unlike Julius, who was surprised when this happened, Lolong, he looks calm, cool, and collected, and he knows exactly what's happening, probably because he has read ahead of Agito here. And Agito is actually going for a tackle. We see that in the next page. He is actually crouching down, going to tackle Lolong, a low tackle. But Lolong, he catches onto this, of course, and he goes low as well on top of Agito and is pushing him from his shoulders. So he sort of counters the tackle in this way. And this is a bad spot for Agito because his face is wide open for an attack from Lolong, from his knees specifically, and that's exactly what Lolong does. He launches his knee at Agito here. He's going to strike him with him, but right before that, before we can see the attack hit Agito's face, there is this sort of shockwave. And we see Lolong, he's sort of sliding back a bit. And he's like, oh, I see. Don't want to be in the business end of that. And we see Agito had used the dragon shot. But Yamashita starts explaining, at least briefly, what had happened in that moment right before Lolong's knee hit Agito's face. And that is that he intercepted that attack with the dragon shot. And so Lolong, he isn't too phased about this. He's sort of, shaking his leg a little bit, and he seems relatively fine. But he asks, hey, look, my knees are pretty tough. How is your fist doing? And Agito, he's silent when he doesn't respond to that question. He shakes off his hand a bit, and I think this might point to a possible injury with his hand here. So that's something to keep in mind for the future of this fight, because it might come into play. But Lolong takes another stance. Lolong takes his stance again, and he's of course talking a bit more. In fact, he's talking about himself talking a bit too much. And he says he wants to apologize for doing that because he's having so much fun, because he's in the zone. Lolong is this type of individual. But it does go to show a big contrast between him and Agito, at least to a certain extent, because Agito has been relatively quiet for most of this fight, or at least the fight up until this point. And here we have Julius in the stands. He's salty because now he's hoping that Agito doesn't lose, because Agito whipped his ass pretty much definitively, right? And it's really funny to see this, because you will see Julius later on in the chapter, but I'll save my comments for then. But Lolong starts to attack Agito again, and so he's trying to close the distance, and something very interesting happens here, and that is the fact that as he's closing the distance, there's no sound of his footsteps. And Katihara, she notices this from the stands. As a commentator, he's like, wait a minute, this is just like maglev, and I don't know exactly what that is, so I'm going to skip talking about that. As far as I know, as Katihara said, it's some fancy footwork. But after Lolong has attacked Agito a little bit, Agito also starts to take initiative here as well, and he starts to go for a kick. And we see something interesting here, because on the one hand, it could be that Agito kicked Lolong to try to gain a bit more distance from him. At least that's how it would seem like. So he tried to intercept him like that. But it looks like Lolong stepped back for that strike specifically, and we actually see why, and that's why I'm hypothesizing this, and that is that Lolong does something absolutely insane. He catches Agito's kick, which is crazy in and of itself, because we know like Agito is a very powerful and deadly striker. Like Yamashita was saying that, look, not even Julius, or he was surprised when Julius was willfully taking strikes from Agito. But here Lolong is catching a kick from him, and he's catching it with his own legs, and with that he actually causes Agito to lose balance and fall down. I'll actually show this on screen because it's hard to understand and to describe what's happening here. But Agito is in a really bad position from this point and gets a direct hit from Lolong's elbow. So again, looking really bad at this point for Agito here. And Yamashita, he's like, whoa. He recognizes that, look, what Lolong was doing is possible, but doing it in an actual fight, especially against someone like Agito, is incredible. Like, he doesn't even think it's in the realm of something that a superhuman could do. Or at least what Yamashita thinks a superhuman can do. And so we get a lot of hype up for this moment, which I think might show that Lolong is definitely, he might be better at reading ahead of Agito. I think he really is just flat out better in this aspect, at least for now. But with that, he has an advantage because he's over Agito. Agito, he's fallen over, so he has to block at this point, and he's just blocking Lolong, just slamming him with these elbow strikes. And you have, at least I think it's Katihara who's speaking here. He's like, yeah, look, Agito is in trouble. And you can see Julius, he starts to visibly get pissed off at this. Cause like, Lolong, he's making more progress than Julius could ever dream of doing. Like, Julius was not built for this tournament. And he's mad about it, is what it looks like. But Agito manages to end up breaking Lolong away from him. So he sort of pushes him with his legs here. And Lolong, he is basically blocked, but he gets sent back a bit. And he sort of recovers as well. He's sort of crouching, getting up. And he asks, of course, Agito at this point. He's like, well, this is fun, isn't it, Agito? And Agito, he's like, he completely agrees. And he starts to pull out the Formless plus martial art. And we are going to see, because I think Agito has dominated every single time he has used this technique. I think, yeah, I think so. Unless I'm wrong, probably comment which fight Agito used the martial arts plus Formless and didn't dominate that fight, at least for a few moments. I can think of Kuroki, sort of, but Kuroki took advantage of the void, which technically doesn't exist now, but that's the only person I can think of at best. But yeah, that's the actual chapter. Amazing. Loving the fight so far. But yeah, that's it. Don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.